I was going through some of your earlier works, and there I found that the reason you turned to philosophy is because of the problem of nihilism. And you also
Yeah,
wrote a book on how you found a somewhat solution to the problem of nihilism in philosophy of Ludwig Wittgenstein. So, would you like to
right.
tell your story from where you started and how you view this thing now?
Well, it's a long story. I can kind of summarize it. Um, uh, the When I was 19 years old, I bought a book from a bookstore called The Inward Morning by H.G. Bugby. And the inward morning, it's about dawning of our subjectivity, a dawning within, awakening. And, people, as you know, people in India are very familiar with the idea of an inner awakening, right? It's fundamental to all the religions of Hinduism, and it's fundamental in many ways in all the great world religions, Buddhism, and so on. And the uh, So that book showed me that life was a journey of reflection and awareness and increasing awareness as one reflected, as one meditated, as one gained experience, and so on. Uh, uh, and at that time, I was very interested in Nietzsche because I didn't see any path to truth. I saw all these conflicting views. I realized when I began to read Nietzsche's writings that I was in a state of nihilism. Right? I no meaning in truth. I didn't find meaning in truth, and so my study of Wittgenstein, I was lucky enough to have a very great professor who was a super expert on Wittgenstein as one of my teachers in graduate school. And my study of Wittgenstein made me realize just what I've been talking to you about today, and that is that language is conventional, but language includes these dimensions I was talking about: the intersubjective, the subjective, and the objective dimension. And this, if you drop the metaphysical demand, right? And this has been going on. Think of the work of Immanuel Kant, right? Who criticized the whole history of Western philosophy, because the history of Western philosophy was trying to get at ultimate reality, at being, which they often call God. They're trying to get there, and they're trying to prove the existence of God and so on. And Kant showed that this is impossible. That the way the mind works, it requires presuppositions for any cognitive conclusions that it comes to, and because it requires these presuppositions, we can never get to ultimate reality, Kant argued. And and he was right about that in a certain very fundamental way. Nevertheless, what are they talking about? What are they talking about in Buddhism? Right? They're not talking about getting to some metaphysical reality. They're not talking about proving the existence of God. Right? They're awakening to something else, something entirely differently. They call it sunyata, emptiness. Right? And what that involves. You think of the 2nd century Buddhist thinker Nagarjuna, right? Nagarjuna analyzed language very much like Wittgenstein did, and he analyzed language to show that ultimately language is just as Wittgenstein said it was, conventional. It's all conventional, and if you realize that it's all conventional, then something else new can show up, but it's not reality. It's not anything you can say. It's not anything you can grasp. intellectually or any other way, right? Something shows up that solves the problem of nihilism. It's an awakening. And if you read the great Hindu thinkers, the mystics of Hinduism, they're not grasping anything either. They say Naguna Brahman is absolutely unknowable, unsayable. There's nothing that can be said, right? And this has been compared by many scholars of religion with the Buddhist Sunyata and so on. And Wittgenstein had this kind of experience, right? He was a philosopher of language, and he said that at the end of his first book, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, which came out in 1929, he studied language in the book, and then in the last section of the book he says, that which cannot be said, that which cannot be gotten into language, we must be silent about. We must climb up the ladder, and once we've climbed the ladder and discovered this, we throw away the ladder, he said. If we want to overcome nihilism, human beings have to grow spiritually, not only intellectually, but spiritually.